The cardiac monitor flatlined at 3:47 a.m., and the OR went dead silent, except for the low, guttural growl coming from the corner. The military dog refused to move. Wouldn't let anyone near the table. A surgeon reached for the sheet to call it, and 80 pounds of German Shepherd launched forward, teeth bared, hackles up like razors. Two orderlies tried to pull it back. It didn't budge. Then she walked in. A nobody nurse, third shift, barely 6 months on staff, and the dog sat, instantly, like it had just seen a ghost. She didn't say a word, just locked eyes with the animal, then looked at the monitor everyone else had already given up on. "He's not dead," she said quietly. The room stared. The dog waited. And somewhere deep in that soldier's chest, something no one else had noticed began to move again. If you want to see how far a story like this can travel, drop a comment with the city you're watching from, and hit that like button so I know you're ready to see what happens when the truth walks into a room that's already made up its mind. The emergency entrance at Riverside General had seen a lot of bad nights, but this one hit different. The ambulance came in hot, no siren, just the sharp squeal of brakes and the metallic slam of doors. Two paramedics jumped out, faces tight, moving fast but not talking. That alone set people on edge. Behind them, a military K9 handler tried to keep pace, but the dog was already ahead of him, low and fast, nose locked on the gurney like it was tethered by something invisible. The soldier on the stretcher wasn't moving. No chest rise, no sound, just the awful stillness that made even seasoned staff look away. GSW to the chest, suspected cardiac arrest in transit. "We lost him 4 minutes ago," one of the paramedics said, voice clipped, professional, empty. He didn't look at anyone when he said it. "Tried 2 rounds of epi, nothing." Dr. Raymond Ashford was already halfway through the doors when he heard that. He was chief of trauma, 15 years deep, the kind of guy who made calls without hesitation and expected everyone else to keep up. He took one look at the flat line on the portable monitor and made his decision. Bag him and get him to OR3. We'll try one more round, but if there's no response in 5, we're calling it. The team moved, but the dog didn't. It planted itself next to the gurney, ears pinned back, eyes sharp and unblinking. When an orderly tried to guide it away, the growl started, low, steady, not aggressive but absolute, a line drawn in fur and instinct. "Get that animal out of here," Ashford snapped without looking back. "Sir, he won't move." "Then sedate it or lock it in a room. I don't care. Just get it out of my OR." The handler, a wiry guy in his mid-30s with dirt still on his uniform, stepped forward, hands open, voice calm. "He's trained for combat. He won't attack unless provoked, but he's not leaving the body. That's his handler on the table." Ashford stopped, just for a second, then kept moving. "Then he stays outside. We don't have time for this." They wheeled the gurney through the double doors, and the dog followed. No leash, no command, just silent, relentless presence. When they hit the OR corridor, it sat, right outside the room, staring at the door like it was counting seconds. Inside, the team prepped fast. Gloves snapped on, monitors beeped to life, overhead lights buzzed white and clinical. The soldier's body was pale, chest still, lips starting to take on that grayish tint that meant the clock had already run out. Ashford didn't waste time. Charging to 200. Clear. The shock hit. The body arced. The monitor stayed flat. Again, 300. Same result. One of the younger nurses, a woman named Kara Novak with tired eyes and a voice she didn't use much, stood near the back of the room, watching. She wasn't scrubbed in, wasn't supposed to be there, but she hadn't left either. "Should we?" someone started. "No," Ashford said, already moving toward the crash cart. "We're done. Time of death, 4:02. The room exhaled. Equipment powered down. Hands dropped. The kind of quiet that came after every lost fight, when there was nothing left to do but document it and move on. Except Kara didn't move. She was staring at the monitor. Not the flat line, the waveform, the tiny irregularities most people wouldn't even register as noise. "Doctor," she said softly. Ashford didn't turn. "We called it, Novak. Clear the room. There's activity." That got his attention. He looked at her, then at the screen, frowning. That's artifact, electrical interference. It's not, she said, stepping closer. Her voice was still quiet, but there was something under it now. Certainty. It's faint, but it's there. He's in suppression, not arrest. Ashford's jaw tightened. Nurse Novak, I don't know what you think you're seeing, but autonomic shutdown, she interrupted, eyes still on the monitor. Induced hypothermia response. Military field protocol for severe trauma. His system's protecting itself. If we wait another 2 minutes, we lose him for real. The room went still again, but this time it was different. People were listening, not because they agreed, because they didn't know what to make of her. Ashford stared. That's not a standard resuscitation scenario. No, Kara said. It's a combat one. A surgical tech near the back muttered something under his breath. Someone else shifted uncomfortably. Ashford's face didn't change, but his posture did. He straightened, shoulders back, voice colder. You're a third-shift nurse with 6 months on the floor. You don't get to walk into my OR and start calling shots based on a hunch. Kara didn't flinch. It's not a hunch. Then what is it? She hesitated, just a beat. Experience. Ashford's eyes narrowed. You're not a combat medic. You're not military. Your file says you came from a community clinic in Nebraska. My file's right, she said. Then where exactly did you get experience with battlefield suppression protocols? She didn't answer. She just looked at him. And for the first time, Ashford felt something shift in the room, something he couldn't name, couldn't control. Before he could push further, the door swung open. The K9 was there, nose low, body tense. It didn't bark, didn't growl, just stared at the table, then at Kara, then back again. Get that dog out of here, Ashford said, louder now. The handler appeared behind it, trying to coax it back. He won't listen. He's locked on something. Kara moved, not toward the door, toward the table. Novak, she ignored him, pulled a syringe from the crash cart, checked the label, drew up a dose with hands that didn't shake. Ashford stepped in front of her. You are not authorized to administer that. Then stop me, she said quietly. For a long moment, no one moved. The monitor beeped its meaningless static. The dog watched, and Kara looked at Ashford like she'd already made her choice and nothing he said was going to matter. Ashford's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist. Not hard, but firm. Final. If you do this, he said, voice low, I will have you removed from this hospital, permanently. Kara met his eyes. If I don't, he dies. So you do what you have to do. She twisted free, not rough, just efficient, and injected the epinephrine directly into the IV line. Then she placed her hands on the soldier's chest, fingers spread, and pressed down in a rhythm that didn't match standard CPR. Slower, deeper, like she was trying to reach something buried. The room held its breath. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Then the monitor jumped. A single blip. Weak, but real. Ashford froze. Kara didn't stop. She adjusted her hand placement, pressed again, and this time the blip came faster, then again. Then a cluster of them, jagged and uneven, but undeniably alive. Jesus, someone whispered. The soldier's chest rose. A shallow, shuddering gasp. His eyelids twitched. The K9 stood up, ears forward, tail rigid. Kara leaned down, voice barely audible. You're okay. You made it. Stay with me. The soldier's lips moved. No sound, but his fingers curled, just slightly, like he was trying to hold on to something. Ashford stepped back, staring at the monitor, then at her. What the hell did you just do? Kara straightened, wiping her hands on her scrubs, face calm. I bought him time. Now we stabilize him before the secondary shock hits. Secondary shock? Ashford's voice cracked slightly. That's not... It's coming, she said. In about 90 seconds, we need fluids, thermal regulation, and someone needs to keep him conscious, or he'll slip again. Ashford didn't argue this time. He just started calling orders, his voice tight but steady. The room moved. Nurses repositioned, monitors recalibrated. The soldier's vitals wobbled, weak but persistent. And through it all, Kara stayed at the head of the table, one hand on his shoulder, the other checking his pulse, her expression unreadable. The dog sat again, but it didn't look away. Neither did the handler, who was now standing just inside the doorway, staring at Kara like he'd seen her face before but couldn't place it. Outside, the low rumble of engines rolled into the parking lot. Heavy, military, the kind that didn't belong at a civilian hospital. Car doors slammed, boots hit pavement. Ashford glanced at the window, then back at Kara. "Who is this guy?" "I don't know," she said. "But you knew how to save him." She didn't answer, just kept her hand on his pulse, counting silently. The doors to the OR swung open again, and this time it wasn't hospital staff. It was 3 men in fatigues, faces hard, moving with the kind of precision that made everyone else feel slow. The lead officer had silver at his temples, a scar across his jaw, and eyes that swept the room in one sharp clinical pass. He stopped when he saw the soldier. Then he saw Kara. His expression didn't change, but something in his posture did. He went still, really still, like he was calculating something dangerous. "Who revived him?" the officer asked, voice low and even. Ashford stepped forward. "I'm the attending." "I didn't ask for the attending." The officer's gaze stayed locked on Kara. "I asked who brought him back." Kara looked up, met his eyes, didn't say a word. The officer's jaw tightened. He glanced at her hands, at the faint, faded ink on the inside of her left wrist, barely visible under the gloves, but there. A small mark, numbers and a symbol most people wouldn't recognize. But he did. "Unit 7, he said quietly. The room went cold. Ashford looked between them, confused. "What's Unit 7? The officer didn't answer. Neither did Kara. She just turned back to the soldier adjusting the IV drip, her face blank. "You're supposed to be dead," the officer said. "I get that a lot," she replied. The soldier on the table stirred. His eyes cracked open, unfocused, searching. His mouth moved. A name, barely audible. "Sienna." Kara's hand stilled, just for a second. Then she leaned down again, voice steady. "Wrong person, but you're safe. That's all that matters." His eyes found hers, and for just a moment something passed between them. Recognition, relief, fear. Then his vitals spiked. The monitor screamed, his body convulsed. "He's crashing again," someone shouted. Ashford lunged forward, but Kara was already moving. She grabbed a second syringe, calculated the dose in her head, and injected it before anyone could stop her. Then she pressed both hands to his chest again, this time harder, and started counting aloud. 1, 2, 3, breathe. 4, 5, 6. Come on, stay with me. The soldier gasped, coughed. Blood flecked his lips, but the monitor stabilized, barely. His eyes stayed open this time, locked on her face like she was the only thing keeping him tethered. The officer stepped closer. "If he dies, he won't," Kara said. Not defensive, just factual. "You sure about that?" She didn't look at him. "I'm still here, aren't I?" The officer studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. Whoever answered, he didn't say much. Just a name, a location, and 3 words. "She's alive." He hung up, pocketed the phone, turned back to Kara with an expression that was hard to read, part anger, part something else. Respect, maybe, or fear. "Commander Vance is on his way," he said. "You're not leaving this building." Kara didn't react. "I wasn't planning to." Ashford had been standing there trying to follow a conversation that made no sense, watching his OR get taken over by people who didn't answer to him. He'd had enough. "Excuse me," he said, voice sharp. "This is still my hospital. If you want to have a reunion, you can do it in the waiting room. Right now I have a patient who needs—" "Your patient is stable because of her, the officer interrupted. "And if you want him to stay that way, you'll let her work." "Let her work?" Ashford's face reddened. "She's not even supposed to be in here. She violated protocol, administered medication without authorization, and as far as I'm concerned, she just committed a career-ending—" "She saved his life," the officer said flatly, "which means she did your job better than you did." The room went quiet. Ashford's jaw worked, but nothing came out. He looked at Kara, then at the soldier, then back at the officer. "I want an explanation," he said finally. "Now." The officer didn't blink. No, you don't. Ashford's hands balled into fists. This is my OR, my hospital. You don't get to walk in here and… This man is a classified asset, the officer cut in. The operation he was part of doesn't exist. The injury he sustained didn't happen. And the woman who just saved him? He glanced at Kara. She doesn't exist either. So if you want to file a report, go ahead. But it'll be redacted before it reaches the second floor. Ashford stared. Then he laughed, bitter and sharp. You're kidding. I'm not. Kara spoke up, voice still calm. Dr. Ashford, I know this looks bad, but he's right. If you push this, you'll lose. Not because you're wrong, because the system won't let you win. And I'm just supposed to accept that? You don't have to accept anything, she said. But you do have to keep him alive. So if you want to fight me later, fine. Right now, we have work to do. Ashford looked at her for a long time. Then he exhaled, slow and deliberate, and turned back to the monitors. Fine. But when this is over, you and I are having a conversation. Fair enough, Kara said. The officer's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then gestured to the other two soldiers. Perimeter. No one in or out without clearance. They moved without a word, taking positions by the doors. The K9 handler stayed where he was, watching Kara with an expression that was equal parts confusion and awe. You really Unit 7? He asked quietly. Kara didn't answer, just checked the soldier's pupils, then his pulse again. The handler took that as confirmation. I heard stories, he said. Thought they were bullshit. They probably were, Kara replied. But you're here. So's he. She nodded at the soldier. That's what matters. The handler hesitated, then nodded. The dog, still sitting, let out a low whine. Kara glanced at it, and for the first time since she'd walked into the room, her expression softened. Just a fraction. He's okay, she said to the dog. You did good. The dog's tail moved. Once. Then it settled, head on its paws, eyes still locked on the table. The soldier's breathing evened out. His color started to come back, slow but steady. Kara adjusted the IV flow, checked the monitor one more time, then stepped back slightly. She was still close, still ready, but no longer hovering. Ashford watched her. Where did you learn that? Nebraska, she said without looking at him. Don't insult me. I'm not. I worked in a clinic. I saw a lot of things. Not like this. She finally met his eyes. You'd be surprised. Before he could respond, the doors burst open again. This time it was a woman in a dark suit, badge clipped to her belt, moving fast. She stopped short when she saw Kara, and her face went pale. Hartley? She said, voice cracking just slightly. Kara didn't turn. Wrong name. Bullshit. The woman stepped closer, eyes scanning Kara's face like she was checking for proof. You were declared KYA 2 years ago. There was a funeral. I was there. Then you went to the wrong one, Kara said. The woman's mouth opened, then closed. She looked at the officer. Does Vance know? He's on his way. Jesus, She ran a hand through her hair, pacing. Do you have any idea what kind of shitstorm this is going to cause? Not my problem, the officer said. It's going to be everyone's problem. She turned back to Kara. Where the hell have you been? Working, Kara said simply. Working. At a civilian hospital, under a fake name. It's not fake. Then what is it? Kara finally looked at her. It's what I use now. The woman stared, then shook her head slowly. You don't just walk away from Unit 7. That's not how it works. I didn't walk away, Kara said. I got reassigned. Permanent medical leave. Officially dead. That was the deal. Whose deal? Vance's. The woman blinked. He knew? He signed the papers. The officer's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. The woman looked like she'd just been hit with something heavy. So, this whole time? She trailed off, then refocused. Why are you here? Why now? I work here, Kara said. This is my shift. That's not… The woman stopped herself, took a breath. You know what? Fine. We'll deal with that later. Right now, I need to know if he's stable. He is, Kara said. For how long? As long as he needs to be. The woman looked at Ashford. Is that true? Ashford's face was tight, but he nodded. Vitals are holding. He's not out of the woods, but he's not dying, not anymore. Good. She pulled out her phone, typed something fast, then pocketed it again. Vance will be here in 10. Until then, no one talks to anyone. Clear? The officer nodded. Kara didn't respond. The woman took that as agreement and stepped back, positioning herself near the door like a guard. The room settled into an uneasy quiet. Machines beeped. The soldier breathed. Kara stood at the head of the table, one hand resting lightly on the rail, her face unreadable. Ashford moved closer, lowering his voice. You want to tell me what's really going on? Not particularly, Kara said. You saved his life, I'll give you that. But you also just brought a small military unit into my hospital without warning, and now I've got people telling me to keep my mouth shut about something I don't even understand. That about sums it up, Kara said. So what am I supposed to do? She looked at him. Your job, same as always. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. Ashford's jaw tightened, but he didn't push. He turned back to the monitors, adjusting a setting, checking the drip. Kara watched him for a moment, then looked down at the soldier. His eyes were open again, still unfocused, still searching. Hey, she said softly. You with me? He blinked, tried to speak. Nothing came out. Don't talk yet, she said. Just breathe. You're safe. Your dog's here. You made it out. His hand moved, fingers reaching. Kara hesitated, then took his hand in hers. His grip was weak, but it was there. Sienna, he whispered again, barely audible. Kara's expression didn't change. I'm not her, but I know her, and she'd want you to stay alive, so that's what you're going to do. Understand? He nodded, barely. His eyes started to close. Stay awake, Kara said, voice firmer now. You don't get to check out yet. Not until Vance gets here. You owe him that much. The soldier's eyes snapped open again, sharper this time. He nodded once, more deliberate, and Kara squeezed his hand. Good man, she said. Outside, the rumble of engines grew louder, heavier, the kind that meant convoys, not cars. The woman by the door glanced out the window, then looked back at the officer. He's here. The officer straightened, so did the other two soldiers. The K-9 lifted its head, ears forward. Kara didn't move, but her grip on the soldier's hand tightened just slightly. The doors opened, and Commander Elias Vance walked in like he owned the building. Tall, broad-shouldered, late 50s with steel-gray hair and a face that looked like it had been carved out of something hard. He stopped 2 steps into the room, eyes sweeping the scene in one efficient pass. Then he saw Kara. He went completely still. For 5 long seconds, no one spoke. No one moved. The room held its breath. Then Vance's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Well, he said quietly, this is going to be interesting. Kara didn't turn around. She kept her eyes on the soldier, her hand still wrapped around his, but her shoulders tensed in a way that told everyone in the room she knew exactly who had just walked in. Vance took another step forward, slow and deliberate. His boots made no sound on the tile, but the weight of his presence filled the space like pressure before a storm. Novak, he said. Not a question, a confirmation. Commander? She replied without looking. Interesting career change. Seemed like a good fit. Vance's jaw shifted slightly. He glanced at the soldier on the table, then at the monitors, taking in the readings with the kind of efficiency that came from decades of practice. His expression didn't change, but something in his eyes did. Relief, maybe. Or calculation. How bad? He asked. Bad, Kara said. But stable, for now. For now, Vance repeated. He moved closer, stopping just on the other side of the table. What happened? GSW chest, close range. He went into autonomic suppression before they got here. They tried standard protocol. It didn't work. So you stepped in. Someone had to. Vance's gaze shifted to Ashford, who was still standing near the monitors, looking like a man who'd just realized he was in the wrong room. "Doctor, I assume you're the one in charge here." "I was," Ashford said tightly, "until about 20 minutes ago." "Good. Then you understand the situation." "I don't understand anything," Ashford shot back. "I've got military personnel in my OR, a nurse with a fake identity who apparently used to be dead, and now you're telling me what exactly? That this is all normal?" Vance's expression didn't shift. "No, I'm telling you it's classified. That's not good enough. It's going to have to be." Ashford took a step forward, and for a moment it looked like he might actually take a swing, but Kara spoke first, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "Dr. Ashford saved his life too," she said, still not looking at Vance. "He kept trying when most people would have stopped, so if you're going to stand there and dismiss him, you can leave. I'll handle this on my own." The room went silent. Vance stared at her, and for the first time since he'd walked in, something resembling emotion crossed his face. Not anger, something closer to surprise. "You vouching for him?" Vance asked. "I'm saying he did his job," Kara said. "Same as you taught me to do mine." Vance considered that. Then he looked at Ashford again, this time with less edge. "Doctor, I'm not here to take over your hospital, but this man is part of an operation that can't be discussed. If he survives, it'll be because of you and her. If he doesn't, it won't be your fault. Either way, what happens in this room stays in this room. Understood?" Ashford's hands were still clenched, but he nodded stiffly. "Fine, but I want it on record that I don't agree with any of this." "Noted," Vance said. Then he turned back to Kara. "We need to talk." "Later," she said. "Now. He's not stable enough for me to leave." Vance's jaw tightened. "Then we talk here." Kara finally looked at him, and the weight of that look was enough to make the woman by the door shift uncomfortably. "You want to have this conversation in front of everyone?" "I want to know why you're here," Vance said. "You were supposed to stay off the grid. That was the deal." "I am off the grid?" Kara said. "No one knew who I was until tonight. And now half the hospital does. No, now half the OR does. And they're not going to talk." "You sure about that?" Kara glanced at Ashford. He met her eyes, then looked away. She turned back to Vance. "Yes." Vance didn't look convinced, but he didn't push. Instead, he pulled out his phone and made another call. This one was shorter, just a few words. When he hung up, he looked at the officer by the door. "Lock down. No one in or out of this wing until I say otherwise." The officer nodded and stepped out. The woman in the suit stayed where she was, arms crossed, watching Kara like she was trying to solve a puzzle that didn't have all its pieces. "You know this is going to blow back on you," the woman said to Vance. "If anyone finds out you faked her death—" "They won't," Vance said. "You don't know that. I do. Because if they do, it means someone in this room talked, and no one in this room is that stupid." The woman's mouth thinned, but she didn't argue. She just pulled out her own phone and started typing. Kara adjusted the IV drip again, checking the flow rate, then leaned down to the soldier. "You still with me?" He nodded weakly. His eyes were clearer now, more focused. He looked at Vance, and something passed between them. Recognition. Acknowledgement. "Sir?" the soldier rasped. "Sergeant Hale," Vance said, his voice softer now. "You did good." "Didn't finish." "You will, when you're ready." Hale's eyes drifted back to Kara. "She's real?" "She's real," Vance confirmed. "Thought you were gone." "I was," Kara said, "for a while." "Why?" She didn't answer that, just squeezed his hand again. "Rest. We'll talk later." Hale's eyes closed, and within seconds his breathing evened out into something closer to sleep. Kara watched the monitor for a long moment, then stepped back, pulling off her gloves and tossing them into the bin. "He needs surgery," she said to Ashford. "The bullet's still in there, close to the pericardium. If it shifts, he's done." Ashford nodded. "I'll need to bring in a cardiac surgeon. Morris is on call, but—" "No," Vance said. Ashford turned. "Excuse me?" "You do it. You and Novak. No one else." I'm not a cardiac specialist, Ashford said. And she's a nurse. You want us to perform surgery we're not qualified for? You're qualified enough, Vance said. And she knows more about field trauma than anyone in this building. That's insane. That's an order. Ashford's face went red. You don't get to give me orders. Actually, the woman by the door said, stepping forward, he does. I just got clearance from upstairs. As of 5 minutes ago, this wing is under federal jurisdiction, which means Commander Vance is in charge, which means you do what he says or you leave. Ashford stared at her. You're joking. I'm not. He looked at Kara. You're okay with this? No, she said, but he's right. If we bring in someone else, they'll ask questions. And if they ask questions, people start digging. And if people start digging, she trailed off, glancing at Vance. Things get messy. Things are already messy, Ashford said. They can get worse, Kara replied. Ashford opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked at the monitors again, then at Hale, then back at Vance. If he dies because we weren't equipped to handle this, he won't, Kara said. You can't guarantee that. No, but I can guarantee he'll die if we don't try. Ashford exhaled hard, running a hand over his face. Then he nodded, sharp and reluctant. Fine, but I want everything on record, every decision, every step. If this goes wrong, I'm not taking the fall alone. Fair, Vance said. Kara moved to the sink, scrubbing in again, her movements automatic. Ashford joined her, still tense, still angry, but focused now. The room shifted into prep mode. Instruments were laid out. Lights repositioned. The anesthesiologist, a quiet older man who'd been standing in the corner the whole time, stepped forward without a word and began adjusting settings. Vance stayed where he was, arms crossed, watching. The woman by the door stayed too. So did the K9 handler, who'd been silent this whole time, eyes flicking between Kara and the dog like he was trying to figure out which one he should trust more. Commander, the handler said finally. Permission to speak. Granted. Is this the same? He stopped, searching for words. The stories we heard about the medic in Kandahar, the one who pulled 6 guys out of a burning convoy, that was her? Vance didn't answer immediately. Then he nodded once. That was her. The handler's face went pale. Jesus. She didn't do it alone, Vance said. But yeah, that was her. The handler looked at Kara with something close to awe. She didn't acknowledge it, just kept scrubbing, methodical and detached. Why'd she leave? The handler asked. She didn't leave, Vance said. She got pulled, medical discharge, trauma-related. She looks fine to me. That's because you don't know what to look for. The handler opened his mouth, then thought better of it, and went quiet. The dog whined again, low and soft. Kara glanced at it, and for just a moment, her expression shifted. Not much. Just enough to show that whatever wall she'd built around herself had cracks in it. He misses his handler, she said to the dog. But he's going to be okay, I promise. The dog's tail thumped once against the floor. The handler blinked, surprised. He doesn't usually respond to anyone but Hale. He knows, Kara said simply. Then she dried her hands and moved back to the table. The surgery took 4 hours. 4 brutal, meticulous hours where every movement mattered, and every second felt like it might be the one where everything fell apart. Ashford worked with precision. His hands steady, even though his face was tight with concentration. Kara assisted, anticipating every need before he asked, guiding him through steps she'd done a dozen times in conditions a hell of a lot worse than a sterile OR. Clamp, Ashford said. Kara handed it to him before he finished the word. Suction. Already there. I need to see the entry wound again. Angle the light. She adjusted it without hesitation, and Ashford paused, glancing at her. You've done this before. A few times, she said. A few times or a few dozen? Does it matter? He didn't answer, just went back to work. At the 2-hour mark, Hale's pressure dropped. The monitor screamed. Ashford froze, just for a second, and Kara's hand shot out, grabbing a syringe from the tray. Don't, Ashford said. Not yet. Let me see. There's no time, Kara said, already injecting. His heart's compensating. If we wait, it'll stop. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Ashford looked like he wanted to argue, but the monitor stabilized. Slowly, grudgingly, but it stabilized. He stared at her. How did you experience? She said again. This time, he didn't push. By the third hour, Vance had stepped out to take a call. The woman in the suit had left too, replaced by two more soldiers who stood by the door like statues. The K9 hadn't moved. Neither had the handler. Ashford was closing now, stitching carefully, his hands cramping but steady. Kara watched the monitors, counting breaths, tracking rhythms, her mind running through contingencies she hoped they wouldn't need. Almost there, Ashford murmured. Good, Kara said, because he's starting to wake up. Ashford's head snapped up. What? His eyes are moving. REM cycle. He's coming out of it. He shouldn't be, not yet. Well, he is. Ashford swore under his breath and worked faster. Kara moved to Hale's head, placing a hand on his shoulder, leaning in close. Hey, she said softly. You need to stay still. We're almost done. Just a little longer. Hale's eyelids fluttered. His mouth moved. Kara couldn't make out the words, but she could hear the tone. Distress. Confusion. You're safe, she said. Your dog's here. Vance is here. You made it, but you need to stay still. Hale's breathing hitched. The monitor spiked. No vacuum, Ashford said, voice tight. If he moves, he won't, Kara said. She kept her hand on Hale's shoulder, her voice low and steady. Listen to me. You've been in worse. You know how this works. Just breathe. Count with me. 1, 2, 3. Hale's breathing slowed. His body relaxed just slightly. Good, Kara said. Keep going. 4, 5, 6. Ashford finished the last stitch. Done. Kara let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Okay, let's get him stable. They worked in silence for the next 20 minutes, monitoring vitals, adjusting medications, making sure nothing else decided to go wrong. When Hale's numbers finally evened out and stayed there, Ashford stepped back, pulling off his gloves with shaking hands. That, he said quietly, should not have worked. But it did, Kara said. Because of you. She didn't respond to that, just started cleaning up, moving like she'd done this 1,000 times and was already thinking about the next one. Ashford watched her for a moment, then shook his head. You're not just a nurse. I am now, she said. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. Before Ashford could press, the door opened and Vance stepped back in. His face was harder now, jaw tight, eyes dark. We have a problem, he said. Kara straightened. What kind? The kind that means Hale wasn't the only target tonight. The room went cold. Ashford looked between them, confused. What are you talking about? Vance ignored him, his focus on Kara. There was a second team. They hit one of our safe houses an hour ago. 3 dead, 2 missing. Kara's face went blank. Who? Ramirez, Kowalski, and Sienna. The name hung in the air like a blade. Kara didn't move, didn't blink, but something shifted behind her eyes, something sharp and dangerous. Sienna's missing, she said quietly, as of 40 minutes ago. And you're just telling me now? I'm telling you now because I just found out. Vance's voice was hard. They hit fast, no warning, no chatter. By the time our people responded, it was already over. Kara's hands curled into fists. Where? Outside Richmond, old industrial district. We've got a team sweeping now, but they're gone, Kara finished. We don't know that. Yes, we do. She turned, already moving toward the door. Novak, Vance said sharply. Where are you going? To find her. The hell you are. You're off the grid. That was the deal. Kara stopped, turning back to face him. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were anything but. The deal was, I stay out of the field, that I don't go back to active ops, but if Sienna's missing, the deal's off. You don't get to make that call. Watch me. Vance stepped in front of her, blocking her path. They stood there, inches apart, tension crackling between them like live wire. "You walk out that door," Vance said, voice low and dangerous, "and you undo 2 years of work. You put a target on your back. You make yourself visible to people who want you dead." "I don't care," Kara said. "You should. Sienna saved my life." Kara's voice didn't rise, but the weight behind it made everyone in the room take notice. "She pulled me out of a firefight when no one else would. She carried me 3 miles through enemy territory with a bullet in her leg. So if she's in trouble, I'm going, and you're not going to stop me." Vance stared at her. Then slowly he stepped aside. "Fine," he said, "but you're not going alone. I work better alone. And you'll die alone if you go in without backup." Vance pulled out his phone, typed something fast. "I'm sending a team. They'll meet you at the staging point." "I don't need a team." "You're getting one anyway." Kara's jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. She turned to Ashford. "He's stable. Keep him on the current regimen. If his pressure drops, you'll need to—" "I know what to do," Ashford said quietly. He looked at her like he was trying to figure out who she really was. "Be careful." She nodded once, then headed for the door. The K9 stood up, ears forward, ready to follow. The handler grabbed its collar. "Not this time, boy," he said softly. The dog whined, pulling against the hold. Kara stopped, looked back at it, and something in her expression cracked, just for a second. "Stay," she said to the dog. "He needs you more than I do." The dog sat, reluctantly, but it sat. Kara disappeared through the door. Vance followed, barking orders into his phone. The woman in the suit reappeared, looking frazzled. "Sir, we've got another problem," she said. Vance stopped. "What now?" "The hospital administrator just got a call from the mayor's office. They're asking questions. About the lockdown. About military presence. About—" "Stall them," Vance said. "I can't stall forever." "You can stall for the next 6 hours. That's all I need." The woman looked like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. Just nodded and stepped away, already dialing. Ashford stood there, still in his blood-stained scrubs, staring at the empty doorway Kara had just walked through. "What the hell just happened?" he said to no one in particular. No one answered, because outside, in the parking lot, Kara was already climbing into a black SUV with tinted windows. The engine roared to life, and as the vehicle pulled away, the first light of dawn started creeping over the horizon, turning the sky from black to gray. Inside the OR, Hale's eyes opened. Just a crack. He looked around, disoriented, searching. "Where?" he rasped. The handler stepped forward. "She's gone, Sarge. Had to move." "Sienna?" The handler hesitated. "We don't know yet." Hale's jaw clenched. His hand moved, weak and shaking, reaching for something that wasn't there. The dog moved closer, pressing its nose against Hale's palm. Hale's fingers curled into the dog's fur. And for the first time since he'd woken up, his breathing steadied. But outside, 3 blocks away, a black sedan with no plates pulled out of an alley and fell in behind the SUV, followed at a distance. Patient, methodical, watching. The driver didn't speak, and Kara didn't ask him to. She sat in the back of the SUV, loading a Glock 19 with practiced efficiency, checking the chamber, testing the slide. The weapon felt foreign in her hands after 2 years of syringes and IV lines, but muscle memory was a hell of a thing. Her fingers knew what to do even if her brain was still catching up. The black sedan stayed 3 cars back, brake lights flickering in the early morning traffic. Kara noticed it immediately. Clocked the distance, the positioning, the way it matched their speed without getting closer. Amateur tail or professional confidence? She couldn't tell yet. Either way, it was there. "We're being followed," she said. The driver's eyes flicked to the rear view. "I see it." "How long?" "Since the hospital." Kara's jaw tightened. "And you didn't say anything?" "Commander's orders. See who's tracking. Don't engage unless necessary." "That's a stupid order. Not my place to say." Kara holstered the Glock and pulled out her phone. No signal. She tried again. Nothing. She looked at the driver. "You jamming comms?" "Secure channel only. Everything else is blocked. So if I need to call for backup, you use the radio. Channel 7. She memorized that, then turned her attention back to the sedan. It had dropped another car length back, trying to be subtle, failing. "How far to the staging point?" she asked. 12 minutes. "Make it 8. The driver hesitated. "Roads aren't clear enough for—" "Make it 8 or I'm driving." He pressed the accelerator. The SUV surged forward, weaving through lanes with precision that suggested military training. Behind them, the sedan matched pace, no longer pretending. Kara pulled the Glock again, checked the magazine count. 15 rounds. She had 2 spare mags in the vest the driver had handed her when she'd climbed in. 45 rounds total. Not great. Not terrible. "They're closing, the driver said. Kara looked back. The sedan had cut across 2 lanes and was now directly behind them, close enough that she could see the outline of 2 figures in the front seats. No plates, tinted windows, professional grade. "Ram us or shoot us?" she said, more to herself than the driver. "Probably both." "Great." The sedan accelerated hard, closing the gap to less than a car length. Kara rolled down her window, cold air rushing in, and leaned out just enough to get an angle. She didn't fire. Not yet, just aimed, letting them know she was ready. The sedan backed off slightly. Not much, just enough to stay out of immediate range. "They're not trying to stop us," the driver said. "Just track us." "Then they know where we're going," Kara said. "Or they're waiting to see where we lead them." Kara pulled herself back inside, rolled up the window. "How secure is the staging point?" "Secure enough." "That's not an answer." "It's the one I've got." She bit back a response and focused on the road ahead. The industrial district was coming into view now, blocks of abandoned warehouses and rusted chain-link fences. The kind of place where nobody asked questions because nobody wanted answers. The driver took a hard right, tires squealing, and the sedan followed. They were committed now, no more pretense. Kara gripped the door handle, watching the buildings blur past, calculating angles and exit routes out of habit. They pulled into a parking lot surrounded by 3 warehouses, all of them dark and silent. The SUV skidded to a stop near a loading dock where 2 other vehicles were already parked. 4 soldiers in tactical gear stood near the dock, weapons ready, eyes scanning. Kara was out before the engine stopped, moving toward the soldiers with the Glock low but ready. The sedan pulled in 30 seconds later, stopping at the far end of the lot. Doors opened, 2 men stepped out. No weapons visible. Hands empty. The soldiers raised their rifles. Kara held up a hand, stopping them. "Don't shoot yet," she said. One of the soldiers, a woman with short dark hair and a scar across her cheek, looked at her. "You Novak?" "Yeah." "Commander said you'd be coming in hot. Didn't mention you'd bring company." "Neither did he." The woman gestured to the 2 men from the sedan. "You know them?" "No, but they've been following since the hospital." "Then they're hostile." "Maybe. Or they're watching to see what we do next." The woman frowned. "That's a hell of a gamble." "Everything's a gamble right now." One of the men from the sedan took a step forward, hands still visible. He was older, 50s maybe, with gray at the temples and a face that had seen things. He stopped when the rifles tracked him, staying just outside easy shot range. "We're not here to fight," he called out. "Then why are you here?" Kara shouted back. "To talk." "Talk about what?" "Sienna Marquez." Kara went still. The soldiers shifted, sensing the change. The woman with the scar glanced at her. "You know that name?" "Yeah," Kara said quietly. "I know it." She walked forward, closing half the distance between them, Glock still in hand. The man stayed where he was, watching her with an expression that was hard to read. Caution, maybe, or respect. "Who are you?" Kara asked. "Marcus Delgado. I used to run logistics for Unit 7, before it got disbanded." Kara's eyes narrowed. Unit 7 wasn't disbanded. It was restructured. That's the official line. Reality's messier. "Why are you following me?" "Because you're the only one left who might actually find her." Kara's grip on the Glock tightened. "What do you know about Sienna?" Delgado glanced at the soldiers, then back at Kara. "More than I should. Less than you need. Stop talking in circles. She's alive. As of 2 hours ago, she was alive. But she won't be for long if you don't move fast." "Where?" Delgado hesitated. I tell you that, and you're walking into a trap. Then why tell me at all? Because the trap isn't for you. It's for whoever shows up to get her. They're using her as bait. Kara's jaw clenched. For who? Vance? You. Anyone from the old unit. They want to draw you out. Confirm who's still active, who's worth targeting. The woman with the scar stepped up beside Kara. This is bullshit. He's stalling. Maybe, Kara said. Or maybe he's telling the truth. Either way, we don't have time for this. Kara looked at Delgado. Where is she? Old rail yard, east side, building 12. But they've got eyes everywhere, drones, ground teams, the works. You go in loud, she's dead before you reach her. And if we go in quiet, you might get close, but you won't get out. Kara stared at him for a long moment, weighing options that all felt wrong. Then she turned to the woman. What's your name? Torres. You trust me, Torres? Torres looked at her, taking in the hospital scrub still visible under the tactical vest, the exhaustion in Kara's eyes, the way she held the weapon like she knew exactly what to do with it. Commander says you're solid, Torres said finally. That's good enough for me. Good, because we're splitting up. You take your team, hit the rail yard from the north, make noise, draw their attention. I'll go in from the south, get Sienna, and we extract before they figure out what's happening. Torres frowned. That's not the plan Vance gave us. Vance isn't here. I am. He's not going to like this. He doesn't have to like it. He just has to deal with it. Torres studied her for another moment, then nodded. All right, but if this goes sideways, it's on you. Wouldn't be the first time. Torres moved back to her team, already barking orders. Kara turned to Delgado. You're coming with me. Delgado blinked. What? You know the layout, you know their positioning, you're coming with me. I'm not a soldier. I don't need a soldier. I need someone who knows the terrain. Delgado looked at his partner, a younger guy with nervous eyes who'd stayed by the sedan the whole time. The partner shook his head slightly, but Delgado ignored him. All right, Delgado said. But I'm not armed. Kara tossed him her spare Glock. He caught it awkwardly, checked it like he'd done it before but not recently, then nodded. Let's move, Kara said. They split into two groups. Torres and her team piled into their vehicles, engines roaring as they pulled out of the lot heading north. Kara, Delgado, and the nervous partner climbed into the SUV, the driver already plotting a route south. The rail yard was 10 minutes away, 8 if they pushed. Kara sat in the back, methodically checking her gear, running through scenarios in her head. Delgado sat across from her, hands wrapped around the borrowed Glock, knuckles white. You don't have to do this, Kara said without looking up. Yeah, I do, Delgado said. Why? Because Sienna pulled my son out of Mosul when everyone else said he was gone. She carried him 6 miles through hostile territory, alone. So if she needs help now, I owe her. Kara looked at him. Your son make it? He's in college now, studying engineering. Good. They drove in silence after that, the city thinning out around them, buildings getting lower and more decrepit. The rail yard came into view, a sprawling maze of rusted tracks and crumbling structures. The driver pulled off the main road, navigating through side streets until they were a quarter-mile out. This is as close as I can get without being spotted, the driver said. Kara nodded. Wait here. If we're not back in 30 minutes, leave. Commander said, I don't care what the commander said. If we're not back, we're not coming back. So leave. The driver's jaw worked, but he didn't argue. Kara and Delgado moved on foot, keeping low, using the shadows cast by the early morning sun. The nervous partner stayed with the SUV, looking relieved. Kara didn't blame him. They reached the perimeter fence within 5 minutes. Delgado pointed to a section where the chain link had been cut and poorly repaired. They slipped through, staying close to the ground, moving from cover to cover. Building 12 was in the center of the yard, a 2-story structure with broken windows and graffiti-covered walls. Kara counted 3 visible guards, all armed, all alert, probably more inside. Drones? She whispered. Delgado nodded, pointing up. Kara followed his gesture and caught the glint of metal above them, circling in a slow pattern. Commercial grade, not military. That was something. Commercial drones had shorter battery life, worse optics. How long before Torres hits? Delgado asked. Kara checked her watch. 4 minutes. They waited. Every second felt like an hour. Kara's heart pounded, adrenaline sharpening everything. The smell of rust and oil, the distant hum of traffic, the scrape of Delgado's boot against concrete. Then, from the north, the sound of gunfire erupted. Short bursts. Controlled. Torres was making her move. The guards outside Building 12 spun toward the noise. One of them barked into a radio. 2 of them started moving north, weapons up. The third stayed at the door, eyes scanning, finger on the trigger. Kara moved. Fast and low, closing the distance in seconds. The guard turned, saw her, started to raise his weapon. Kara hit him before he could fire, driving her elbow into his throat, collapsing his windpipe. He went down hard, choking, and she caught his rifle before it clattered. Delgado was right behind her, breathing hard. Holy hell! Stay close, Kara said. She pushed through the door, rifle up, sweeping the interior. Concrete floors, metal support beams, debris scattered everywhere. Footsteps echoed from the second floor. Voices. At least 3, maybe more. Kara moved toward the stairwell, Delgado covering her 6 with the Glock. They reached the stairs, started climbing, each step careful and deliberate. Halfway up, a figure appeared at the top. Young guy, 20s, holding a pistol with shaking hands. He saw Kara and froze. Don't, Kara said quietly. He fired anyway. The shot went wide, hitting the wall behind her. Kara put 2 rounds center mass before he could adjust. He dropped, gun clattering down the stairs. Delgado flinched. You didn't have to kill him. He shot first, Kara said, already moving again. The second floor opened into a long room with windows on both sides. Sienna was there, zip-tied to a chair in the center, blood crusted on her face, one eye swollen shut. 3 more guards stood around her, weapons ready, eyes on the windows where gunfire still cracked in the distance. One of them saw Kara and shouted. She dropped him before he finished the word, swung the rifle left, took down the second. The third dove behind a support beam, firing blind. Rounds sparked off metal, ricocheted. Kara moved right, flanking, closing the angle. Delgado stayed at the stairwell, firing to keep the guard pinned. Kara reached the beam, swung around, and put 3 rounds into the guard's chest. He slumped, weapon falling. The room went quiet except for the distant gunfire outside. Kara ran to Sienna, dropping the rifle, pulling a knife from her belt to cut the zip ties. Sienna's head lolled, but her eyes tracked, focused. Kara? She rasped. Yeah, I'm here. You're supposed to be dead. So are you. Sienna tried to smile, but her split lip made it a grimace. Guess we're both hard to kill. Kara cut through the last tie and helped Sienna stand. She was weak, unsteady, leaning heavily on Kara. Delgado moved over, taking Sienna's other side. We need to move, he said. Can you walk? Kara asked Sienna. I can try. They started toward the stairs, moving slow, Sienna's weight between them. They made it 3 steps before the explosion hit. The north side of the building erupted in fire and debris, the shockwave throwing all 3 of them to the ground. Kara's ears rang, vision swimming. She pushed herself up, tasting blood, and saw Delgado doing the same. Sienna was on her back, eyes wide, gasping. RPG, Delgado choked out. They're escalating. Kara grabbed Sienna, hauling her up. We go now, or we don't go at all. They stumbled toward the stairs, but the stairwell was blocked now, half collapsed from the blast. Kara looked around, saw a window on the south side, mostly intact. There, she said. They moved to the window. 2-story drop, concrete below. Not ideal. We jump, we break something, Delgado said. We stay, we die, Kara replied. Another explosion rocked the building, closer this time. The floor beneath them cracked, groaning. Jump, Sienna said through gritted teeth. I'll go first. Before Kara could stop her, Sienna threw herself through the window, glass shattering around her. She hit the ground hard, rolled badly, and lay still. Sienna! Kara shouted. No response. Kara grabbed Delgado. Go! He jumped, landed better than Sienna, rolled, came up limping but moving. Kara followed, hitting the concrete with a jarring impact that shot pain up her legs. She ignored it, scrambled to her feet, and ran to Sienna. Sienna was breathing, but her leg was bent wrong, bone visible through torn skin. Compound fracture. Bad. Can you move? Kara asked. Not on that, Sienna gasped, gesturing at her leg. Kara looked at Delgado. Help me carry her. They lifted Sienna between them, moving as fast as they could across open ground. Behind them, the building groaned and partially collapsed, sending up a cloud of dust and ash. They reached the perimeter fence just as the SUV pulled up, driver already opening the back door. They threw Sienna inside, piled in after her, and the driver floored it before the doors were closed. Where's Torres? Kara asked. Radio went dead 3 minutes ago, the driver said. No contact since. Take us back to the staging point. That's not secure anymore, they'll follow. Then take us to the hospital. Commander's orders were, I don't care about his orders. She needs surgery now or she loses the leg. Hospital, move. The driver hesitated, then nodded and changed course. Kara turned her attention to Sienna, pulling off her vest to use as padding, trying to stabilize the leg without causing more damage. Sienna's eyes were glassy, shock setting in. You came for me. Of course I did. Thought you were out. I was. But you know how it is. Nothing ever really ends. Sienna's hand found Kara's, gripping weakly. Vance, he's going to be pissed. Let him. Kara. Rest. We'll deal with Vance later. Sienna's eyes closed. Her breathing steadied, but her grip didn't loosen. Kara held on, checking vitals by touch, feeling the rapid pulse, the cold skin, the signs of blood loss. Delgado sat across from them, staring at his hands. They were shaking. I'm not cut out for this anymore, he said. None of us are. Kara replied. But here we are. They made it back to Riverside General in 15 minutes. Kara was already moving when they pulled into the emergency bay, shouting for a gurney, for staff, for anyone who could help. Nurses appeared, taking over, wheeling Sienna inside. Kara followed, blood-streaked and exhausted, barely registering the stairs. Ashford met them at the trauma bay entrance, still in scrubs, still looking like he hadn't slept. He took one look at Sienna's leg and swore. OR2. Now. He barked at the nurses. Then he turned to Kara. Where the hell have you been? Fixing a problem. By creating 10 more? That's usually how it works. Ashford stared at her, then shook his head and followed the gurney. Kara started to follow, but a hand grabbed her arm. She spun, ready to fight, and found herself face to face with Vance. His expression was cold, controlled, furious. My office, he said. Now. I need to. That wasn't a request. Kara pulled her arm free, glanced at the trauma bay doors, then back at Vance. Fine, but make it fast. They walked in silence to a makeshift command center Vance had set up in an unused conference room. Inside, maps covered the walls, laptops hummed, and 2 other officers stood at attention. Vance dismissed them with a gesture, then closed the door. You disobeyed a direct order, he said. I saved her life. You walked into a trap, and I walked out. With 1 casualty, minimal intel, and a tail that's probably still on you. Vance stepped closer. You got lucky, Novak, that's all. Luck had nothing to do with it. Then what was it? Instinct, training, or just the same reckless bullshit that got you discharged in the first place? Kara's jaw tightened. You want to do this now? Yeah, I do, because Torres and her team are missing. 3 men, all experienced, all following the plan I gave them. And now they're gone. Because you changed the plan. Kara felt the words hit like a punch. What? They went in loud like you told them. Drew fire, but the enemy didn't just engage. They surrounded them, cut them off. We lost contact 20 minutes ago. Then send a team. I already did. They found the vehicles. Burned out. No bodies, no survivors. The room went quiet. Kara stood there processing, her mind running through scenarios, trying to find a way this wasn't her fault. They were bait, she said finally, just like Sienna. Probably, Vance agreed. But you handed them the opportunity. You split the team. You changed the plan. I made a call. A bad one. Kara's hands curled into fists. So what now? You pull me? Send me back off the grid? I should, Vance said. But I can't, because whoever's doing this, they know about you now. They know you're alive, which means you're already a target. And if I pull you, they'll just come for you somewhere less secure. So I'm bait too. No, you're an asset, a compromised one, but still useful. Kara stared at him. You're using me to draw them out. I'm using everything I've got to stop them before they kill more of my people. And if I say no, then you're on your own. No backup, no resources, no protection. You walk out that door, you're a ghost again. For real this time. Kara looked at the maps on the wall, at the red circles marking attack sites, at the names scrawled in marker, some crossed out, some still active. She thought about Hale, still recovering upstairs, about Sienna in surgery, about Torres and her team, gone. What do you need me to do? She asked quietly. Stay visible. Keep working. Let them come to you. And when they do, we'll be ready. Kara didn't believe him, but she nodded anyway. Fine. Vance studied her for a moment, then moved to the door. Get cleaned up. Get some rest. You're back on shift in 6 hours. I'm not leaving Sienna. Dr. Ashford has her. She's in good hands. I'm staying. Vance sighed, but didn't argue. Your call. He left. Kara stood there alone, staring at the maps, at the names of people she'd served with, people she'd saved, people she'd lost. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, half expecting Vance again. But it wasn't Vance. It was a text from an unknown number. We know who you are. We know where you are. And we're coming for everyone you care about, starting with the one in OR2. Kara's blood went cold. She was moving before she finished reading, bursting through the door, sprinting down the hallway toward the operating rooms. Staff jumped out of her way. Someone shouted her name. She didn't stop. She hit the OR corridor at a dead run, saw the lights on in OR2, saw Ashford through the window, bent over the table, hands moving with precision. And she saw the figure in scrubs standing behind him, surgical mask covering their face, hand reaching for something on the instrument tray. Something that wasn't medical. Kara slammed through the doors, and the figure's head snapped up, eyes locking with hers through the mask. Then the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in 3 seconds after the blackout, bathing the OR in dim red glow. Kara's eyes adjusted fast, tracking the figure behind Ashford. They moved, hand closing around whatever they'd been reaching for, and Kara launched herself forward. She hit them before they could turn fully, driving her shoulder into their midsection, slamming them against the instrument tray. Metal clattered, something hit the floor, the figure twisted, surprisingly strong, throwing an elbow that caught Kara's jaw. Pain flared, but she didn't let go. Security! Ashford shouted, hands still in the surgical field, unable to move without compromising the sterile environment. Someone get security! The figure drove a knee toward Kara's ribs. She shifted, took it on her hip, and grabbed their wrist. The hand was empty now. Whatever they'd grabbed was gone. She torqued the wrist hard, feeling tendons strain, and the figure gasped behind the mask. Then the OR doors burst open. 2 security guards charged in, batons drawn. Kara shoved the figure toward them, and they stumbled, caught between bodies. One guard grabbed them. The other moved to assist. Check the floor, Kara snapped. They dropped something. Ashford's eyes hadn't left the surgical field, but his voice was tight. Novak, what the hell? Just keep working, Kara said, already scanning the floor. There, near the foot of the table, a syringe. She knelt, careful not to touch it, and saw the pale liquid inside. Clear. Could be anything. Could be nothing. The guards had the figure pinned now, arms behind their back. One of them ripped off the surgical mask, revealing a woman in her 30s with sharp features and cold eyes. She didn't struggle, just stared at Kara with an expression that was almost curious. Who are you? Kara demanded. The woman didn't answer, just smiled slightly, like she'd already won something. Kara stepped closer. Who sent you? Still nothing. One of the guards pulled out cuffs. We'll take her to the holding room. Call the police. No, Kara said. Take her to the conference room. 3rd floor. Commander Vance is there. Tell him Novak sent you. Tell him it's urgent. The guard hesitated. Ma'am, protocol says, I don't care about protocol. Do it. The guard looked at his partner, who shrugged. They hauled the woman out, moving fast. Kara picked up the syringe carefully, holding it by the plunger, and turned to Ashford. You okay? She asked. Fine, Ashford said, though his voice said otherwise. What was that? Attempted murder, probably. Of who? Me or the patient? Both, if I had to guess. Ashford's hands moved, precise despite everything. He was closing now, stitching the last layers. You gonna tell me what's going on? When I know, you'll know. That's not reassuring. It's not supposed to be. The anesthesiologist, who'd been silent this whole time, finally spoke up. Her vitals are stable. Whatever that was, it didn't reach her. Kara looked at Sienna on the table, unconscious and vulnerable. Good. Keep her that way. She left the OR, still holding the syringe, and headed for the 3rd floor. Her jaw throbbed where she'd taken the elbow, and her hands were shaking slightly from adrenaline crash. She ignored both and kept moving. The conference room door was closed. Kara pushed through without knocking. Vance was there, along with the woman in the suit from earlier. Both turned when she entered. Vance's expression darkened when he saw what she was holding. Where did you get that? He asked. OR2. Someone tried to use it on Sienna. Who? Guards are bringing her now. As if on cue, the door opened and the 2 security guards pushed the woman inside. She moved calmly, no resistance, no panic, like being caught was just another step in a process she'd planned for. Vance studied her for a long moment. Then his face went blank in a way that was worse than anger. Captain Reeves, he said quietly. The woman's smile widened slightly. Commander? The woman in the suit stepped forward, recognition flashing across her face. Lisa Reeves, Intel Division. She's been MIA for 6 months. Not MIA, Vance said. Turned. Reeves shrugged. That's one word for it. Kara set the syringe on the table carefully. What's in this? You'll have to test it to be sure, Reeves said. But if I had to guess, potassium chloride, fast acting, looks like cardiac arrest, hard to trace unless you're specifically looking for it. Who are you working for? Vance's voice was flat, emotionless. Does it matter? It does to me. Reeves leaned back in her chair, as relaxed as someone at a coffee shop. I'm working for people who understand that Unit 7 was a mistake, that Black Ops programs operating outside oversight create more problems than they solve, that people like you, she nodded at Vance, and her, she nodded at Kara, are liabilities that need to be retired. Retired, Kara repeated. That's a nice word for murdered. Murder's messy, retirement's clean. At least, it was supposed to be. But you keep surviving things you shouldn't. It's becoming inconvenient. The woman in the suit pulled out her phone. I'm calling this in. FBI, maybe justice. No, Vance said sharply. Sir, she just confessed to... I know what she confessed to, but if you make that call, you'll alert whoever she's working for, and then we lose our advantage. The woman lowered her phone reluctantly. What advantage? She's still alive, Vance said. Which means she still has value to them, which means they'll try to get her back. Reeves laughed, low and bitter. You think they care about me? I'm expendable, we all are. That's the whole point. Then why are you here? Kara asked. Why risk exposure just to kill Sienna? Because Sienna knows things, names, locations, operations that were never supposed to see daylight. She's a walking security breach. As are you, by the way. So this was cleanup. This was containment, Reeves corrected. And it would have worked if you'd stayed gone like you were supposed to. Kara moved closer, her voice dropping. Who's the target? Who are you really after? Reeves met her eyes, and for the first time something shifted in her expression. Not fear, Something else. Calculation. You want the truth? Reeves said. The target's everyone. Everyone who knows what Unit 7 really did. Everyone who participated. Everyone who covered it up. You're all marked. And no matter how deep you hide, eventually we find you. We, Vance repeated. Who's we? Reeves just smiled. Vance's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his face went rigid. He turned to the woman in the suit. Get her out of here. Secure holding. No calls, no visitors, no communication. Where? I don't care. Just make it disappear. The woman nodded and gestured to the guards. They hauled Reeves to her feet. She didn't resist, didn't protest. Just looked at Kara one more time. You should have stayed dead, Reeves said. Would have been easier for everyone. Probably, Kara agreed. But I've never been good at easy. They took her out. The door closed. Vance turned to Kara, holding up his phone. That was my contact at the Pentagon. Torres and her team just turned up. Kara's chest tightened. Alive? 2 of them, barely. They're at a military hospital in Maryland, but they're talking. What did they say? That the ambush was expected, that someone fed our operational details to the enemy ahead of time, that this wasn't random. Inside job, Kara said. Looks like it. How high does it go? Vance's jaw clenched. That's what we're about to find out. He moved to the laptops, pulling up files, cross-referencing personnel records. Kara watched over his shoulder, her mind working through the implications. If someone inside had access to operational details, it meant they had clearance. High clearance, which narrowed the pool considerably. Who knew about the rail yard, she asked. Me? You? Torres Delgado. Delgado's clean. He had no reason to set up his own ambush. Agreed. Which leaves someone on my end. Vance pulled up a personnel list. 12 names, all officers, all with access to tactical planning. He stared at the screen, and Kara could see him running calculations, weighing loyalties, looking for cracks. There, Kara said, pointing. Captain Richard Brennan, Intel Liaison. He was in the room when you briefed the operation. Vance frowned. Brennan's solid. 20 years of service. 20 years is a long time to build trust. Also a long time to get compromised. You have proof? No, but I have instinct. Vance considered that. Then he picked up his phone and made a call. It rang twice before someone answered. Brennan, Vance said, I need you in conference room B, now. He hung up, looked at Kara. If you're wrong, I'm not. You sound sure. I've been wrong before, but not about this. They waited. 3 minutes later, the door opened and Captain Richard Brennan walked in. Mid-40s, clean-cut, calm demeanor. He looked at Vance, then at Kara, and his expression didn't change. Sir, he said, what's this about? Close the door, Vance said. Brennan did. Vance gestured to a chair. Brennan sat, still calm, still composed. Kara stayed standing, watching his hands, his eyes, the way he held himself. We've got a problem, Vance said. Someone leaked operational intel. Torres's team got ambushed because of it. Brennan's face showed concern. Appropriate concern. That's bad. Do we know who? We're working on it, but I need to verify some things. Walk me through who you briefed after the planning session. No one, Brennan said immediately. Operational security was tight. I logged the intel, filed the reports, but I didn't share details outside the command chain. You're sure? Positive, Kara spoke up. What about digital access? Did you transmit any files? Brennan looked at her. Just the standard encrypted updates to the Pentagon liaison office. Same as always. Who's the liaison? Colonel Marcus Webb. He's been in that position for 3 years. Kara glanced at Vance. He was already typing, pulling up Webb's file. She watched his face change as he read, recognition dawning. Webb was at Fort Benning when Unit 7 ran operations there, Vance said slowly. He had oversight access. Oversight means he saw everything, Kara said, including personnel rosters, including who was officially listed as KIA. Kara felt the pieces clicking together. He knew I was alive. Or suspected. Either way, he had access to enough information to start connecting dots. Brennan was watching them now, confusion replacing calm. Sir, what are you saying? I'm saying someone used your reports to feed information upstream, and that someone is probably Webb. That's... Brennan stopped. That's a hell of an accusation. It's a hell of a situation, Vance replied. He picked up his phone again, started dialing. I'm bringing him in. The call connected. Vance's expression went from focused to alarmed in the span of 2 seconds. He pulled the phone from his ear, looked at the screen, then at Kara. Webb's gone dark, he said. Phone's off. Office is empty. He disappeared an hour ago. Right after Reeves got picked up, Kara said, which means he knows we're onto him. Which means he's running or preparing. Vance slammed his hand on the table. Brennan, I need you to pull everything Webb had access to in the last 6 months. Every file, every communication, every login. I want to know where he went and who he talked to. Yes, sir, Brennan said, already moving toward the door. And Brennan, Vance called after him, if you find anything that doesn't add up, anything at all, you come directly to me. No intermediaries, no chain of command, straight to me. Brennan nodded and disappeared. Vance turned to Kara, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked tired, really tired. This is bigger than I thought, he said quietly. How big? Webb has contacts across 3 agencies. If he's been feeding information, he could have compromised dozens of operations, hundreds of people, including everyone from Unit 7, including them. Kara sat down, exhaustion finally catching up to her. So what now? Now we find him before he disappears completely. And we figure out who else is involved. You think there are others? I know there are. People like Webb don't work alone. They build networks, create redundancies. If we take him down and don't get the rest, they'll just regroup and start again. Kara rubbed her face. This is what I left. This paranoia, this constant looking over your shoulder. And yet you came back. I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice. Not when people you care about are dying. Vance studied her. You still care, even after everything. That's the problem, Kara said. I never stopped. Before Vance could respond, an alarm started blaring, loud, urgent, echoing through the hospital. Kara was on her feet instantly, Vance right behind her. They ran toward the sound, following the staff rushing down hallways, and emerged into chaos. The ICU. Hale's room. Kara pushed through the crowd, saw nurses surrounding his bed, saw the monitors going haywire, saw Ashford barking orders. What happened? Kara demanded. His IV, one of the nurses said, voice shaking. Someone tampered with it, added something. He's in full cardiac distress. Kara looked at the IV bag. Still hanging, still dripping. Someone had injected something directly into the line. Same MO as Reeves, different target. Cut it, she said. Cut the line now. The nurse hesitated. But now! The nurse moved, clamping off the IV, disconnecting it. Ashford was already administering counteragents, working fast, hands steady, despite the chaos. Kara watched the monitors, counting seconds, willing Hale's heart to stabilize. 30 seconds, 40, 50. The rhythm evened out. Hale gasped, body convulsing once, then settling. Ashford exhaled hard, stepping back. He's stable, he said. For now. Kara turned to the nurses. Who was in here? Who had access? Just us, one of them said, and the orderly who brought fresh linens. What orderly? Young guy. New, I think. I didn't recognize him. Kara was moving before the nurse finished, running down the hallway, scanning faces, looking for anyone who didn't belong. She reached the stairwell, heard footsteps echoing below, and took the stairs 3 at a time. She hit the ground floor and saw him. Young, early 20s, wearing scrubs, moving fast toward the exit. She sprinted, closing the distance, and tackled him just as he reached the door. They went down hard. He fought, trying to throw her off, but she locked her arm around his neck and squeezed. Not enough to choke, just enough to control. Who sent you? She hissed. He didn't answer, just kept struggling. Who sent you? Still nothing. Kara adjusted her grip, cutting off blood flow to his brain. He had maybe 10 seconds before he passed out. She counted down, watching his face go red, then pale. At 5 seconds, he tapped her arm. She loosened slightly. "Webb," he gasped. "Colonel Webb. He pays us, gives us targets." "Us? How many?" "I don't know. He compartmentalizes. We only know our own assignments." "What was your assignment?" "The soldier, Hale. Make it look natural." "Why him?" "I don't know. I just do what I'm told." Security arrived then, pulling the orderly away from Kara, cuffing him. Vance appeared, out of breath, and looked at the orderly with disgust. "Another one," he said. "Webb's cleaning house," Kara said, "taking out anyone who can connect him to Unit 7. "Then we need to move faster." Vance pulled out his phone, made another call. This one was longer, more intense. When he hung up, his expression was grim. "I've got authorization to bring Webb in by any means necessary, but we need to find him first." "Check his financials," Kara said. "Movement patterns. He's running, which means he needs resources. Money, transport." "Already on it," Vance said. Then he looked at her. "You should get some rest. You've been running for 18 hours straight." "I'm fine." "You're not. And if we're going after Webb, I need you sharp." Kara wanted to argue, but her body was screaming at her to stop. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving nothing but aches and exhaustion. 2 hours, she said. "Then I'm back." 4. 2. Vance sighed. 3. Final offer. Kara nodded. Vance gestured toward a nearby break room. "There's a couch in there. I'll have someone wake you." She started toward it, then stopped. "Vance, when we find Webb, I want to be there." "I know," he said. "You will be." Kara collapsed onto the couch and was asleep within seconds. Dreamless, heavy sleep that felt more like unconsciousness than rest. She woke to someone shaking her shoulder. 3 hours exactly. She sat up, groggy, and saw Brennan standing there. "We found him," Brennan said. Kara was on her feet. "Where?" "Private airfield, 40 miles north. He's got a plane waiting. Wheels up in 90 minutes. "Then we move now." She found Vance in the parking lot, already geared up, surrounded by 6 operators in tactical gear. He tossed her a vest and a fresh weapon. "Rules of engagement?" she asked, strapping in. "Alive if possible, but he doesn't get on that plane. Whatever it takes." They loaded into 2 vehicles and drove fast, lights off, using back roads. The airfield appeared 30 minutes later, small and private, surrounded by chain-link fencing. A single plane sat on the tarmac, engines warming up. "There," one of the operators said, pointing. "Near the hangar." Kara saw him. Webb. Tall, 50s, graying hair. He was talking to someone, gesturing toward the plane. 2 other figures stood nearby, armed. 3 hostiles plus Webb, Vance said. "We go in quiet. Suppress the guards first, then close on Webb." They moved. Silent, coordinated, fanning out across the perimeter. Kara took the left flank, moving low, weapon up. She reached the hangar, pressed against the wall, and waited for Vance's signal. 2 soft clicks over the radio. "Go." She rounded the corner, saw one of the guards, and fired. Suppressed shot, center mass. He dropped without a sound. Across the tarmac, another guard fell. The third one turned, saw them, and started to raise his weapon. Kara fired twice. He went down. Webb spun, saw them coming, and ran toward the plane. Vance was faster, cutting off his angle, weapon trained on his chest. "Don't, men," Vance said. Webb stopped, raised his hand slowly. "Commander, didn't think you'd figure it out this fast." "You made it easy." "Did I? Or did I lead you exactly where I wanted you?" Kara felt the words land like ice. She looked around, scanning the area, and saw it. The hangar door, cracked open, movement inside. "Vance!" The explosion cut her off. The hangar erupted in flames, the shock wave throwing everyone to the ground. Kara's ears rang, vision blurred. She pushed herself up, saw Vance doing the same, saw operators scattered, and Webb was gone. Running toward the plane, which was already moving, engines roaring. "Stop him!" Vance shouted. Kara ran, Her legs screamed in protest, but she ran, closing the distance, watching Webb reach the plane's stairs. He was climbing, almost inside. She fired, clipped his shoulder. He stumbled but kept moving. The plane started accelerating. Kara pushed harder, lungs burning, and reached the stairs just as they started folding up. She grabbed the railing, hauled herself up, and threw her body weight against the closing door. It held. She was inside. Webb was there, bleeding, holding a pistol with his good hand. His face was pale, twisted with pain, and something else. Rage. Or maybe just resignation. "You should have let me go," he said. "Not how this works," Kara replied, weapon trained on him. The plane lurched, gaining speed. Kara braced herself against the wall, keeping her aim steady. Webb didn't lower his weapon. "You know what happens if I go down?" Webb said. "The whole thing collapses. Everyone gets exposed. Unit 7, the operations, the collateral damage, all of it becomes public record." "Good," Kara said. "Maybe it should be." "You don't mean that. Try me." Webb laughed, bitter and sharp. "You think you're one of the good guys, but you're not. You're just like me. You did what you had to do and told yourself it was justified. The only difference is I stopped pretending." "The difference," Kara said, "is I didn't sell out my own people. I saved them. From themselves, from a system that was going to burn them all anyway. By killing them first? By giving them a clean exit, quick, painless, better than what they'd get from an investigation, better than prison or disgrace or spending the rest of their lives looking over their shoulders. That wasn't your call to make. Someone had to make it." The plane's nose lifted. They were airborne. Kara felt the shift in gravity, adjusted her stance. Webb did the same, his pistol still aimed at her chest. "So now what?" Webb asked. "You shoot me, the plane crashes. We both die. You let me go, I disappear, and this all goes away. Those are your options." "There's a third option," Kara said. "Which is?" "You put the gun down. You come back with me. You face what you did." Webb's expression didn't change. "And what happens to everyone else? The names in my files? The operations I documented? What happens to them?" "That's not my problem. It will be when their families start asking questions, when the media gets hold of it, when every mistake you ever made gets dragged into the light." Kara's finger tightened on the trigger. "Maybe we deserve that. Maybe you do. But they don't." He gestured with his free hand toward the cockpit. "There's a pilot up there, civilian contractor, just doing his job. If this plane goes down, he dies too. You okay with that?" Kara's jaw clenched. "You're using him as leverage. I'm using reality. You shoot me, people die. You let me go, people live. Simple math." "Nothing about this is simple." "No," Webb agreed, "but it's necessary." The plane banked slightly. Kara felt the shift, recalculated angles. If she fired now, the bullet could go through Webb and hit the cockpit, or breach the hull, or ricochet. Too many variables. Webb saw her hesitation. "You're thinking about it. That's good. That means you're not as far gone as I thought." "Shut up." "I'm just saying there's a reason you haven't pulled that trigger yet. You know I'm right." "You're not right. You're desperate. I'm practical, same as you used to be." Kara's phone buzzed in her pocket. She ignored it. Webb didn't. "That's probably Vance," he said. "Wondering where you are, what you're doing, whether you're going to make the smart call or the righteous one. You don't know what he's thinking. I know what he'd do in your position. He'd pull the trigger, because that's what commanders do. They make the hard calls so people like you don't have to. You're not a commander, you're a traitor." "I'm a realist," Webb corrected. "And the reality is, you're not going to shoot me. Because if you do, you lose everything. The moral high ground, the clean conscience, the idea that you're somehow better than me." Kara's hand didn't waver. "You talk too much. It's a character flaw." The plane leveled out. Smooth air. Webb shifted his weight, testing. Kara tracked the movement. "Here's what's going to happen," Webb said. "I'm going to walk into that cockpit. You're going to let me. And this plane is going to keep flying until I'm somewhere safe. Then I'll send Vance everything he needs to shut down the rest of the network. Clean, quiet, no more bodies. I don't trust you. You don't have to. You just have to decide whether you're willing to bet that pilot's life on your principles. Kara's phone buzzed again, longer this time. An actual call. She still didn't answer. Time's running out, Webb said. Make a choice. Kara stared at him, at the gun in his hand, at the blood seeping through his shirt from the shoulder wound she'd given him, at the calm, calculating expression that said he'd already won. Then she lowered her weapon. Go, she said quietly. Webb's eyebrows rose. Just like that? Just like that. He didn't move immediately, just watched her, waiting for the catch. When it didn't come, he slowly backed toward the cockpit door, keeping his pistol trained on her. Smart choice, he said. I didn't do it for you, Kara replied. I did it for the pilot. Whatever helps you sleep at night. He reached the cockpit door, opened it with his free hand, and slipped inside. The door closed. Locked. Kara stood there, weapon at her side, and pulled out her phone. 3 missed calls from Vance. 1 text. Status? She typed back, on the plane. Webb's in the cockpit. Didn't have a clean shot. The response came immediately. Get off that plane, now. Kara looked around. They were at altitude now, maybe 10,000 feet. No parachute, no way down except landing or crashing. She typed, can't, in the air. Will advise when we land. Vance, where's he taking you? Kara moved to the cockpit door, pressed her ear against it. She could hear Webb talking, voice low and urgent, giving coordinates probably, or making arrangements. She typed, working on it. Then she sat down, checked her weapon, and waited. 20 minutes later, the plane started descending. Kara looked out the window and saw nothing but trees. Forest, dense and endless. Not good. She moved back to the cockpit door, knocked hard. Webb, where are we landing? No response. She knocked again. Webb, answer me. Still nothing. Kara stepped back and fired 3 rounds into the lock. The door splintered but held. She kicked it once, twice, and it gave way. The cockpit was empty. Not just empty, rigged, autopilot engaged. No pilot, no Webb, just an empty seat and a parachute harness hanging on the wall. Kara's blood went cold. She looked at the altimeter. 5,000 feet, 4,000, descending fast. She ran back to the main cabin, searching for parachutes. Found nothing. Webb had taken them all. 3,000 feet. She grabbed her phone, tried calling Vance. No signal. Too remote. 2,000 feet. She moved to the emergency exit, pulled the handle. It didn't budge, locked from the outside. Webb had sealed it. 1,000 feet. Kara braced herself against the wall, wrapping her arms around a support beam, and started counting down. 500 feet. Trees rushed up to meet her, green and endless. 300. She closed her eyes. 200. And then the plane hit. The impact tore through metal and bone. Kara felt the world compress into a single violent moment. The shriek of tearing aluminum, the crack of branches punching through the fuselage, the sick lurch as gravity stopped being a constant and became a weapon. She held onto the support beam with everything she had, felt her shoulder dislocate when the plane flipped, tasted copper when her head slammed into something hard. Then silence. Heavy, ringing silence. She opened her eyes. Smoke. The acrid smell of fuel. The cabin was sideways, debris scattered everywhere, daylight streaming through gaps where the hull had split. Her left arm hung wrong, useless. Blood ran down her face from somewhere above her hairline. She tried to move, and her ribs screamed in protest, but she was alive. Kara unhooked herself from the beam with her good arm, dropped to what used to be the side of the fuselage, now the floor. Every movement hurt. She ignored it and started moving toward the breach in the hull, crawling over seats and twisted metal. The fuel smell was getting stronger. That meant fire soon. She had minutes, maybe less. She reached the opening and pulled herself through, falling the last few feet to forest floor. Moss and dirt. The plane had carved a path through the trees, leaving destruction in its wake. She looked up and saw smoke already rising from the cockpit section. Kara forced herself to her feet, stumbled away from the wreckage, and made it maybe 50 yards before her legs gave out. She collapsed against a tree, breathing hard, trying to assess damage. Dislocated shoulder, possible broken ribs, head wound, but nothing immediately fatal. Her phone was gone, lost in the crash, no way to call for help. She sat there, back against rough bark, and started laughing. It came out harsh and painful, but she couldn't stop. She'd survived a plane crash. After everything else, after getting shot at and blown up and run into the ground, she'd survived a plane crash. The laughter turned into coughing. She tasted more blood. When the coughing stopped, she heard something, distant but getting closer. Helicopter rotors. Kara pushed herself up again, using the tree for support, and started waving her good arm. The sound grew louder, closer. Then she saw it, black against blue sky, military grade sweeping low over the treetops. It circled once, twice, then descended into a clearing 50 yards away. The side door opened before it touched down and Vance jumped out, followed by 3 medics with gear. He ran toward her, face tight with something that looked like fear, but came out as anger. "You're alive," he said. "Disappointed?" Kara asked. "Furious. What the hell were you thinking staying on that plane?" "I was thinking I didn't have a choice." "There's always a choice." "So you keep saying." One of the medics reached them, already assessing injuries, calling out findings to the others. Kara let them work, too tired to protest. They stabilized her shoulder, wrapped her ribs, cleaned the head wound. The whole time, Vance stood there watching, jaw working like he was trying to decide whether to yell at her or thank her. "Webb?" Kara asked when the medic stepped back. "Parachuted out 20 minutes before you crashed," Vance said. "We're tracking him. We'll get him. He rigged the plane, took all the chutes, locked the exits." "I know. We pulled the flight data. He was planning to kill you from the start. Guess I'm harder to kill than he thought. Or luckier. Same thing." They loaded her onto a stretcher despite her protests and carried her to the helicopter. As they lifted off, Kara looked down at the wreckage, still smoking, and felt something settle in her chest. Not peace, but clarity. She was done running, done hiding. Whatever came next, she was going to face it head on. The helicopter ride back to Riverside General took 40 minutes. Kara spent most of it unconscious, waking only when they wheeled her into the trauma bay. Ashford was there, looking exhausted but steady, and he didn't waste time with questions. "OR3, he said to the nurses. "Page orthopedics and get me a CT scan first. I need to see what we're dealing with internally." "I'm fine," Kara tried to say, but it came out slurred. "You're not," Ashford replied. "And this time, you're going to let me do my job without arguing." She wanted to argue anyway, but her body had other ideas. The exhaustion hit all at once, pulling her under before she could fight it. When she woke up, she was in a recovery room. Beige walls, fluorescent lights, the steady beep of monitors. Her shoulder was immobilized, ribs wrapped tight, and her head felt like it was full of cotton. Vance was sitting in a chair by the window, reading something on his phone. He looked up when she stirred. "Welcome back," he said. "How long?" Her voice was hoarse. 6 hours. They had to pin your shoulder. You also had a grade 3 concussion and 2 cracked ribs, but you'll live." "Fantastic." Vance set his phone down. "Webb's in custody. We found him 3 hours ago. He tried to run again, didn't get far." Kara processed that. "Where is he now?" "Federal holding facility, maximum security. He's not getting out." "And the others? The network?" "We're rolling them up. Reeves gave us names in exchange for a deal. We've arrested 12 people so far. More coming." "Sienna?" "Stable. Awake. Asking about you." "Hale?" "Also stable. His dog hasn't left his bedside." Kara closed her eyes, relief washing over her. "Good." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Vance spoke again, his voice quieter. "Torres died," he said. "An hour ago. Internal bleeding. They couldn't stop it." Kara's eyes snapped open. "What?" "Torres, she didn't make it." Kara stared at the ceiling, feeling the weight of that settle on her chest. Torres, the woman who'd followed her plan, who'd gone in loud to give Kara a chance, who'd paid for it with her life. "I'm sorry," Vance said. "Don't be sorry. Be angry." "I am." "Good. Use it." Vance stood, moved to the window, looked out at the parking lot below. I'm shutting down what's left of Unit 7. Officially this time. No restructuring, no reassignments, just done. That the right call? It's the only call. Webb was right about one thing. The program created more problems than it solved. We operated outside oversight for too long. People got hurt. People died. And we told ourselves it was necessary, because that's what you tell yourself when you're doing things you can't defend in daylight. Kara thought about that, about all the operations she'd run, all the decisions she'd made, all the people she'd saved, and all the people she hadn't. What happens to the rest of us? She asked. That's up to you. You want to stay dead? I'll keep the paperwork buried. You want to come back? I'll make it official. Come back to what? Whatever you want. Consulting, training, advisory role, or you walk away and never look back. Kara looked at her hands, wrapped in bandages, scarred from years of work she couldn't talk about. I don't know what I want. Then figure it out, Vance said. You've got time. He left. Kara lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the monitor's beep. She thought about Torres, about Sienna and Hale, about all the people she'd saved and all the ones she couldn't. She thought about Webb, sitting in a cell, probably still convinced he'd done the right thing. She thought about herself and whether she was any different. The door opened. Ashford walked in, checking her chart, making notes. He looked at her, then at the monitors, then back at her. How's the pain? He asked. Manageable. That's not what the monitors say. I've had worse. I'm sure you have. He set the chart down. You're going to need physical therapy, probably months of it. Your shoulder's going to take time to heal properly. I'll manage. I'm sure you will. He paused. For what it's worth, you saved a lot of people. Hale, Sienna, probably others we don't even know about. I also got Torres killed. No, Webb got Torres killed. You tried to save everyone. That's not the same thing. Feels the same. Ashford studied her for a moment. You know what I've learned in 15 years of trauma medicine? You can't save everyone. You can only save the ones in front of you. And you did that. So whatever guilt you're carrying, whatever weight you think you deserve, let it go. Because the people who matter, the ones you saved, they're not going to remember the ones you couldn't. They're just going to remember that you showed up. He left before she could respond. Kara lay there, processing those words, trying to decide if she believed them. The next 2 days passed in a blur of tests and procedures and visits from people she barely remembered meeting. Sienna came by, moving slowly on crutches, and sat with her for an hour without saying much, just being there. Hale came too, the K9 at his side, and thanked her in a voice that was still rough from intubation. Delgado stopped in, bringing coffee she couldn't drink, and sitting in uncomfortable silence until she told him he didn't have to stay. He stayed anyway. On the third day, Vance returned with a folder. Webb's talking, he said without preamble. Full confession, names, dates, operations. He's giving us everything. Why? Because he knows he's done, and he wants it on record that he thought he was doing the right thing. Killing people is never the right thing. That's what I told him. Vance opened the folder, pulled out a single sheet of paper. He mentioned you specifically, said you were the only one who understood what he was trying to do. He's wrong. I know, but he wanted you to have this. He handed her the paper. It was a letter, handwritten, Webb's neat script covering the page. Kara read it once, then again, then set it down. He's trying to justify himself, she said. He is. He thinks we're the same. Are you? Kara looked at Vance. No, because I know what I did was wrong. I just thought it was necessary. There's a difference. Is there? Has to be, otherwise what's the point? Well, Vance took the letter back, tucked it into the folder. The point is we keep trying. We keep making the hard calls and hoping we get more right than wrong. That's all we can do. That's not enough. No, but it's something. He left the folder on the bedside table and walked out. Kara sat there, staring at it, wondering what kind of person she'd become and whether it was too late to be someone different. The answer came a week later when Ashford cleared her for discharge. She was moving slowly, shoulders still weak, ribs still aching, but mobile, functional, alive. Vance met her in the parking lot, leaning against a black SUV. Need a ride? I can manage. I'm sure you can, but humor me. She climbed in. They drove in silence for a while, heading toward the northern edge of the city where the buildings thinned out and the air smelled cleaner. Where are we going? Kara asked. Somewhere you need to see. They pulled up to a training facility, military adjacent, civilian run. Vance parked and led her inside, through corridors lined with classrooms and equipment rooms, until they reached a large open space where a group of young medics were running through trauma scenarios. What is this, Yates? Kara asked. Advanced Field Medicine Training, civilian program, military adjacent. They take people who want to work in crisis zones, war zones, disaster areas, places where hospitals don't exist and protocols are more like guidelines. Why are you showing me this? Because they need someone who's been there. Someone who knows what it's like when everything goes wrong and you're the only thing standing between someone and death. Someone who can teach them not just the techniques, but the mindset. Kara watched the trainees work, saw their focus, their determination, their fear. You want me to train them? She said. I want you to save them from making the mistakes you made, from carrying the weight you carry, from ending up like Webb. I'm not qualified to teach anyone anything. You're more qualified than anyone else I know. You just don't want to admit it. Kara turned away from the window, looked at Vance. Why do you care? Because I'm tired of losing good people to bad systems, and because you deserve a chance to do something that doesn't end with bodies and paperwork and nightmares. What if I fail? Then you fail, but at least you tried. Kara looked back at the trainees. One of them, a young woman with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, was struggling with a chest tube insertion, hands shaking, breath coming fast. The instructor was coaching her, but she was spiraling. Without thinking, Kara moved, pushed through the doors, walked onto the training floor, and knelt beside the trainee. Stop, she said quietly. The trainee looked up, startled. I'm trying to... I know, but you're thinking too much. Breathe first, then move. The trainee took a breath, then another, her hand steadied. Good, Kara said. Now, forget the procedure. Just think about the person in front of you. What do they need? They need the tube in their chest. Right, so do that. Don't think about doing it right. Just do it. The trainee nodded, refocused, and placed the tube. Clean, efficient, perfect. Kara stood up. The trainee looked at her with something like awe. Who are you? The trainee asked. Someone who's made every mistake you're about to make, and I'm here to help you avoid them. The instructor approached, extending a hand. You must be Novak. Commander Vance said you might stop by. Kara shook the offered hand. He did he? Said you were the best field medic he'd ever worked with. Said if we could get you to teach, we'd be lucky. He's overselling me. I don't think he is. Kara looked around the training floor, at all the young faces staring at her, waiting to see what she'd do next. She thought about Torres, about Sienna and Hale, about all the people she'd saved and all the ones she couldn't. She thought about Webb sitting in his cell, convinced he'd been right. She thought about herself, standing here, being offered a chance to be something other than what she'd been. All right, she said finally. Let's get to work. The weeks that followed were hard, harder than Kara expected. Not physically, though physical therapy was its own kind of hell, but mentally. Teaching meant reliving every mistake, every decision, every moment where she'd had to choose between bad options and worse ones. It meant being honest about things she'd spent years burying, but it also meant seeing people learn, seeing them improve, seeing them walk away better prepared than she'd been. And slowly, something shifted. The weight didn't disappear, but it got easier to carry. 3 months after the crash, Vance called her into his office. Webb's trial had just concluded. Life sentence, no possibility of parole. The network had been dismantled. 18 arrests, 12 convictions so far, more pending. It's over, Vance said. Really over this time. Is it? Kara asked. As over as these things get. Webb's done. Reeves is done. Everyone they worked with is either locked up or running scared. Unit 7 is officially closed. The files are sealed. You're free. Kara sat with that for a moment. What about the families? The people who died because of what we did? Some of them know, most don't. That's probably how it'll stay. That doesn't feel right. It's not, but it's what we've got. Kara stood, moved to the window, looked out at the city below. I testified at Webb's trial, told them everything I knew. I thought it would feel different, like I was making things right. Did it? No. Just felt like I was explaining something that shouldn't need explaining. That's because you're not like him. You know the difference between what's necessary and what's right. He never did. Sometimes I'm not sure I do either. But you keep trying. That's what matters. Kara turned back to face him. I'm staying on at the training center, full time. I told them this morning. Vance smiled, small but genuine. Good. They're lucky to have you. We'll see. I mean it. You're good at this. Better than you were at the other stuff. The other stuff kept people alive. So does this, just in a different way. Kara nodded. They stood there for a moment, two people who'd seen too much and done things they couldn't undo, trying to figure out how to move forward. You ever regret it? Kara asked. Unit 7, everything we did. Vance considered that. Every day. But I also know people are alive because of what we did. So I don't know if regret is the right word. Maybe. Responsibility. I'm responsible for what happened, the good and the bad. And I have to live with that. How do you do it? I keep working, keep trying to make things better. It's not enough, but it's something. Kara left his office and headed back to the training center. On the way, she stopped by the hospital, visited Hale and Sienna. Both were being discharged that week, heading back to whatever came next. Hale's dog was with him, calm and watchful, and Sienna was moving better on the crutches, talking about physical therapy and maybe getting back to work eventually. They talked for a while. Not about what had happened, just about small things, normal things. And when Kara left, she felt lighter. That night she went back to her apartment, the small one-bedroom she'd been renting under the name Novak, and started packing. Not to leave, to stay, to make it real instead of temporary. She found the letter Webb had written, still tucked in a drawer where she'd shoved it. She read it one more time, his neat handwriting laying out his justifications, his reasoning, his belief that he'd done what was necessary. Then she burned it, watched the paper curl and blacken, watched the words disappear into smoke and ash. When it was gone, she opened her laptop and started writing. Not a letter, a training manual. Everything she knew about field medicine, about making decisions under pressure, about staying human when everything around you was trying to make you something else. She wrote through the night, and when dawn came, she was still writing. 6 months later, the training center held its first graduation. 23 medics, all certified, all ready to deploy to crisis zones around the world. Kara stood at the back of the room, watching them receive their certificates, seeing the pride on their faces. One of them, the young woman she'd helped on her first day, approached her after the ceremony. Thank you, she said, for everything. You did the work, Kara replied. But you showed us how. You kept us from making the mistakes you made. I showed you the mistakes. You chose not to make them. That's on you. The woman smiled, then hesitated. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you ever regret it? What you did before this? Kara thought about that, about Unit 7 and all the operations and all the choices she'd made, about Webb and Torres and everyone else who'd paid prices they shouldn't have had to pay. Every day, she said. But I use that regret. I let it remind me why this matters, why teaching you matters, why making sure the next generation does better than we did matters. And if we don't, if we make our own mistakes, then you learn from them, and you teach the people who come after you, and maybe, eventually, we get it right. The woman nodded, satisfied with that answer, and moved on to join her classmates. Kara watched them go, these young people heading out into a world that would test them in ways they couldn't imagine yet. She'd done everything she could to prepare them. Now it was up to them. Vance appeared beside her, hands in his pockets, watching the same scene. You did good, he said. They did good, Kara corrected. Take the compliment. She smiled. Fine, I did okay. Better than okay. They stood there together, two people who'd survived things they shouldn't have survived, watching the next generation move forward. You know what I realized? Kara said after a while. What? I spent years trying to save everyone, and I failed. Because you can't save everyone. You can only show them how to save themselves. That a lesson you learned or one you're still learning? Both, Vance nodded. That's fair. The graduation ceremony ended. The graduates dispersed, heading off to their assignments, their futures, their own stories. And Kara stayed behind, already thinking about the next class, the next group of people she could help prepare for the impossible, because that's what she did now, not save people directly, but give them the tools to save themselves. And each other. It wasn't redemption, wasn't forgiveness, wasn't enough to balance the scales or erase the past, but it was something. And in a world where nothing was ever enough, something was all you could ask for. 2 years later, Kara received a message from one of her former students, the young woman from that first class. She was working in a disaster zone, had just pulled 6 people out of a collapsed building, and wanted Kara to know that everything she'd taught her had mattered. Kara read the message 3 times. Then she saved it, added it to a folder where she kept all the others like it, and went back to work. Because the work was never done. There were always more people to train, more lessons to teach, more chances to make sure the mistakes of the past didn't become the mistakes of the future. And sometimes, late at night when she couldn't sleep, she'd think about Webb in his cell, still convinced he'd been right, still believing that the ends justified the means. And she'd think about Torres, who'd followed orders and paid with her life. And she'd think about herself standing in an OR 2 years ago, making a choice that had started all of this. She didn't regret that choice. Saving Hale had been the right thing to do. Everything that came after, the chaos, the violence, the cost, that had been necessary too. But necessary didn't mean good, and right didn't mean easy. It just meant you did it anyway, and then you lived with it, and then you tried to make sure the people who came after you didn't have to make the same choices. That was the lesson. Not that you could save everyone, not that you could fix everything, not that you could undo the past or erase your mistakes, just that you could keep trying, keep teaching, keep showing up. And maybe that was enough. Maybe that was more than enough. Kara closed her laptop, looked out at the training floor where a new class was already starting, and got back to work. Because there were always people who needed saving. And if she couldn't save them herself anymore, she could damn well make sure they knew how to save each other. That was her purpose now. Not atonement, not redemption, just purpose. And for someone who'd spent years not knowing who she was or what she was supposed to be, having purpose was everything. She walked onto the training floor, saw the nervous faces of the new recruits, and started her introduction the way she always did. My name is Kara Novak, and I'm here to teach you how to save lives, not because it's easy, not because it's clean, but because someone has to, and it might as well be you. They listened. They learned. And when they graduated, they went out into the world carrying everything she'd taught them. And that, she realized, was worth everything she'd been through to get here. Every mistake, every failure, every impossible choice. Because it meant the next generation might do better, might make different choices, might save the people she couldn't. And in the end, that was the only legacy that mattered. Not what you did when no one was watching, but what you taught others to do when you weren't there anymore. That was the truth she'd learned. The one Webb never understood. You couldn't save everyone, but you could teach people how to try. And sometimes that was enough to change everything.